This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. This is your host, Pauline, and I kind of have to laugh because if you listened to the show yesterday with Ben and I, so first of all, congratulations to Clemson on clinching the national title last night. And it's so funny. It's funny to me because Ben and I did an entire prediction as to why Alabama was going to win. And then we also did tell you that both Ben and I are pretty bad at predicting what's going to happen in a game, and and that no matter what we predict and the reasons that we give, that we are always wrong. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is. And even so, if you go back and listen to yesterday's episode, you'll hear us discuss what we thought was going to happen with the Clemson and Alabama game. And of course, that's not what happened. And so for those of you that aren't up to date, whatever, that's totally fine. So the Clemson Tigers defeated the Crimson Tide last night, 35-31. And it was actually a really good game. It was kind of slow in the beginning as far as, but there was, it was slow in the beginning as far as the fact when you compare it to what happened literally in the last second of the game. So the game as an entirety, it was a lot of fun. It was, there was a lot going on, a lot of scoring back and forth. And for me personally, I enjoy watching football when there are a lot of touchdowns. I guess everybody does. I don't know, but I just don't like it. I don't know. This is just a personal thing. I hate it when somebody scores in the first quarter and that's it the rest of the game. You know, it's not that it's boring or whatever, but it just, just to me, I just enjoy it when there's a lot going on. And so, again, like I said, so Clemson trumps over the Crimson Tide, and I kind of want to give a recap of the final play that won the game for Clemson, because there's been it's been a little bit of controversy, and there has been some upset fans, of course, because of this final play. So in the end of the game, and like I said, this literally happens at the last second. Okay, so now here's a breakdown of the last play. Okay, so now it looks like it was set by a pick. Okay, so quarterback Deshaun Watson of the Tigers. Now, just to let you guys know, he also has declared for the draft following this national championship win. So we're going to be following him as he makes that into the draft and his journey into the draft as, the next few weeks go on. But anyway, so now picks can be legal. So for those of us that may not know exactly all the terms when it comes to football, so a pick can be legal as long as there's no offensive pass interference. Okay. And if you rewatch this play again, it does actually look like the defender. So it looks like Alabama is initiating the contact. So it's not really, offensive pass interference. So there's no contact by the receiver as far as being initiated first. So it's good. And it's so funny because what the other side and like the other talk when it comes to this is that this is very, very similar. This play, it's kind of like haunting the Tide because this is very similar to what they did to beat LSU in overtime back in 2014. So it's kind of like it's come back, not to bite them, but, you know, if something works, my thing is there's nothing wrong with copying a play in my eyes if it's going to get the job done, you know. And so, again, so the Clemson Tigers did defeat LSU. Deshaun Watson of the Tigers has declared for the draft, which is very exciting, rightfully so. It doesn't surprise me that he would, you know, decide to do that at all. And it's funny because Watson, he had a great game. You know, he had a really good game, but he in the fourth quarter threw for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's a way to end a college career. If you ask me, that's a great way to end it. And again, I want to apologize to all of you Alabama fans because of Ben and I predicting that you guys were going to win. We just knew that you guys were going to lose, or we just knew, that you guys were going to win. And the Tigers pulled out. And that's another thing, because there has also been talks about Alabama's defense, because if you watch the play again, he's so, I don't know. My thing is just, if you're on defense and the opposing team, the team that you're up against in the championship title game is only down, like if you know that by them scoring a touchdown and they are first and goal, so they're on the goal line, first and goal. Yeah, there's only a second left on the clock, but you got to stick your man. I don't know, that I personally, and now, I mean, I get it, but in my eyes, I think that you should be fighting over everything to keep your man covered, because you don't want an easy play like that to literally rip the rug out from underneath your feet. Now, because Alabama was winning the entire game, and every time I was, checking the score, because I actually had to work, so I had to watch bits and pieces of the game. But the whole time I was like, wow, okay, Bama has this. We're good. All of that. And I was like, keeping up and watching some highlights, watching some plays in between. And it was funny because I also told my boss while at work, I was like, look, this game is really important to me. And I want to watch this game. And so I was able to watch a lot of it on my phone as well as have it up on the computer. So I was able to keep up with it for during the game. And so I was like, okay, Alabama has this. And, and you have to give it to the Tigers, and another historical record for them. And I love it when teams win but also break records or end a drought. And so this was actually only their second national title and their first since 1981. So it's been a while, and they got the job done very, very late in the game. But hey, better late than never, right? So with that, we're going to take it to our first break, and when we come back, I want to give you guys a little bit more of a recap with some more football and basketball. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, and there's a few more updates about this game. It's rolling in, and that's the fun thing, is that right after the football, it doesn't stop. Right after the national title game for college, there's new stuff coming in all day long right now as we speak. So keep it locked here. You're listening to the Golden State Media Concept Sports Podcast. I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. And so if you know about Deshaun Watson, and I just want to wrap up this Clemson and Bama game on this part, on this last piece. So, you know, when we were discussing our prediction with Alabama, we discussed how, you know, Clemson's run game wasn't going to do well against Bama's defense, which is true. They only averaged about 2.2 yards a carry, so about 2 yards a carry. And we knew that the Tigers' defense was, it wasn't going to hold up against Bama, and it didn't. Again, they had 31 points, which is a lot. And this game, I think, was a lot of fun. And like I said earlier in the episode, that I love it when there's a lot of back and forth touchdowns. And there was a lot of scoring going on this game. And Bama, they scored early and they scored often. And that's exactly what we knew was going to happen with them when going into this game. We knew that they were going to go out hard. We knew that they were going to go strong, and that if they picked up that momentum, that the Tigers would be left behind. That's what we thought. But see, the thing is that Deshaun Watson, he's a junior. He's their quarterback. He knew, and this guy, his story is just so in 2015, he finished third for the Heisman. This year, 2016, he finished second for the Heisman. And this is the thing with the voting, is that it happens after regular season, rightfully so, that's fine. But then you have guys that come out and break out during the playoffs, break out during the national title game, like Deshaun Watson. So just a recap of his great game that he had last night. And again, why not declare for the draft after a game like this? So he threw 56 passes. Okay. He completed 36 of those. So only 20 out of 56, okay, didn't go through as planned, for a total of 420 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, with his smart thinking to decide the outcome of the game in the final seconds. So, I think that he showed and proved why he was a great candidate for the Heisman, as well as potentially a Heisman winner if they would have taken the vote this morning or even last night. And I don't think that there's any better way to end your college career if you're going to than out on top like Deshaun Watson is doing. So again, we're going to follow him as he goes into this next phase of his career. And it's just congratulations again to Clemson. And with that, we're going to take it over to the NBA. A quick recap of last night's game. So the Pelicans defeated the New York Knicks last night, 110-96, which was a great game. My boy Anthony Davis. Now, if you don't know, I love Anthony Davis, and I really want him to stay healthy so that he can continue dominating in the league and just get to the level that we all, and the potential that we all know that he can get to, because he's such a phenomenal player that's having to deal with all these setbacks due to injuries, that I just feel that once his body can cooperate with his drive, his athleticism, and with his, physically, his body, if it could just keep up and stop getting hurt. So anyway, Anthony Davis of the Pelicans had 40 points, 18 rebounds, and 2 assists. I love this guy. And Brandon Jennings for the New York Knicks did well as, another top name for the Knicks. He had 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. So decent, not bad at all, but not enough to push over the Pelicans with that. And, the Knicks outscored the Pels in the fourth quarter. Pelicans only had 19 points that fourth quarter, whereas the Knicks had 30 points, but it just wasn't enough to tip that over. And then we move on to the Thunder and the Bulls. Now, the Thunder defeated the Bulls 109-94 with my boy Russell. 21, 9 rebounds, and 14 assists. So Ben and I were discussing how we enjoy, and me personally, I love Russell Westbrook's attack mentality. I love that he is kind of the guy who, he's going to put the team on his back. He's going to do what he needs to do. But, a lot of people argue that he doesn't dish the ball as well and that he's selfish and that he feels that he needs to save the team and all of that. But with 14 assists, okay, he can do it all. He can do anything. He's all around, okay? And then we have Dwayne Wade of the Chicago Bulls, 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. The Mavericks went to go face the Timberwolves and face the Timberwolves at home. The Wolves were able to hold down the home front, defeating the Mavericks 92-101. Dirk had 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And now Dirk, I love Dirk. He is one of those classic guys, and I love it when, you don't have too many guys that stick with a team like this anymore. And, good for him. I'm glad that he's continually the name, face, and player of the game for the Mavericks. But our young guy, Karl Anthony Towns, he showed out last night. He had 34 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists. So again, another all-around perimeter guy. I love these big guys that, not all around perimeter, but all around the court. I just love when these guys can, especially centers, be so versatile. Doing big on the boards as far as rebounds are concerned, putting shots back up, being like that cleanup guy. That's what I always call them. Like, they're always cleaning up the trash and putting it back in. But being able to have some assists as well as on the board. So looking for those quick dishes out, looking for the open guy, and being all around a great player and doing well for your team. And I love that centers are now, and I know it's always been this way to have a really versatile center, but before a lot, we just wanted them inside. We want them camping in the key. Like they're in that zone. They're in the home, staying in the key, very, very close to the basket, staying on the block. I remember growing up and playing basketball. That was something that I was taught very early on because I was so much taller than everybody. Always being taught to stay on the block, like always know where the block is, being in between the first dash and the block, not moving out of that area and things like that. So I love, love, love how the game is changing, especially for big guys, and being able to show off some more skills and being able to develop their game in a new way, because it's so much fun. You have guys coming down, bringing the ball down. You have guys shooting threes, which is awesome to me, because why not? Why not? And so with that, we're going to take it into our last break. And when we come back, there's a few more things that we have to discuss. We also have to take a look at college basketball. So keep it locked here. You're listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We will be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We're getting ready to wrap up this episode. This is the last little bit. I wanted to give a preview of the college basketball games. Now that college football is officially over, we're shifting into college basketball, where everybody's focusing on college basketball. We have number 6 Kentucky taking on Vanderbilt tonight. Also, we have number 1 Baylor versus number 10 West Virginia. Xavier is ranked number 15, taking on number 3 Villanova. We have Duke and Florida State, should be a really good one. Kansas, number 2, taking on the Oklahoma Sooners at Oklahoma. So that's going to be a little bit later on today. As well as number 23, Florida versus Alabama. And we have 25 Kansas State versus Texas Tech, in Lubbock, Texas. So that's going to be great for us to get a recap with Ben tomorrow on some of these exciting games that are happening tonight. It's fun as we transition into college basketball. It's time to kind of start focusing on that now that our college football is out of, to me, seasons don't really end because there's always things that are happening. There's always players making moves. There's always, now with college football, we're going to be seeing who's declaring for the draft, things like that. And so there's always more to discuss and talk about when it comes to college football as well. But I love this time right now because it's all college basketball. Everybody's focused as we prepare for March Madness and, tournament season to come upon us. And so with that, that's the college basketball. In NASCAR, it is expected that tomorrow, Carl Edwards has set up a press conference for tomorrow. It's expected that he will be retiring from NASCAR racing. He is 37 years old. He spent 13 years in the Cup Series, has won 28 times in 44 starts. There's no exact reason why he is retiring right now, so we're going to have to wait for that press conference to see what exactly he is going to, say and give for his reasoning. He's expected to be replaced by Daniel Suarez, who, with Joe Gibbs Racing. And Suarez is from Mexico. And it's really cool because he's the first foreign-born driver to win a NASCAR National Series when he won the Xfinity Series just last year in 2016. So that's Suarez. Again, they, Joe Gibbs Racing has scheduled a news conference for early Wednesday morning. Carl Edwards has won 3 races in 2016. And so he's a really great driver. He has a lot of accolades set to his name. He elevated Jack Rush's Cup program during the 2004 season. He finished 3rd in the standings in 2005 while on his way to becoming one of the sport's biggest stars. Okay, so if you enjoy NASCAR, you know about Carl Edwards. He's been a fixture in NASCAR for 13 years now. And this is just like a fun fact that I think of when I think of Carl Edwards, and I just thought it was really cool. So he still lives in Missouri, where he grew up. And when his team has meetings in North Carolina, he flies his own plane there. So he's a jack of all trades, which is really, really cool. So I'm excited for him and as he goes on to this next phase. And I'm sure a lot of NASCAR fans are going to be a little bit sad with his retirement. And so we're going to have to wait for Wednesday, tomorrow morning, like I said, for that official announcement and for it to be, if he's going to tell us his reasoning why, because there's no sources, we don't really know why he's retiring. But it's time for him. It's pretty much expected that he's going to be retiring from NASCAR. So now we're going to jump to FIFA, some soccer, or football, whatever it is that you call it. So the FIFA Council has decided, they have approved plans to expand the World Cup in 2026 to 48 teams. So they're adding 16 nations, and it was just decided on Tuesday, so early today. So this is just approved because there was a few different options that they had instead of sticking with the 32 teams. So now it's jumped to 48, like I said, and this is the first time actually since 1998 that there have been any changes to the World Cup. And so it's going to feature, with the new setup, with the tournament, the new setup is going to have 16 groups of 3. And so this was the preferred option change for the competition in 2026. So it's going to have 16 groups of 3, followed by a 32-team knockout. And this is going to increase the number of games from 64 to 80, but they're still going to stick with the 32-day game or 32-day schedule. So it's going to just be more matches packed into the 32-day schedule. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, this was the preferred option. There were also options to have a 40-team tournament with 10 groups of 4 or 8 groups of 5. And then there were quite a few different options that they had to choose from. But this is the preferred method and the preferred option in which the FIFA Council has decided upon. And so there's going to be 80 matches instead of 64. FIFA is forecasting a $1 billion extra income. So $1 billion in extra income from the broadcasting and sponsor deals, as well as ticket sales, compared to the $5.5 billion forecast for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. And so it's going to be exciting, like I said. So we have to wait kind of a while. I mean, I guess, I don't know. To me, the years just fly by. So 2026 is going to be upon us quite soon. But this is just something that they have decided now as they prepare for the next few World Cups that are going to be taking place. And so we do have to wait, like I said, until 2026 to actually see these changes take effect. And this is going to give them time with sponsorships, with adding different nations as well. We are expecting there to be more African and Asian teams to have increases with their because currently there's 4 spots apiece. They also want they want 16 European teams in the tournament. So that, in addition to who exactly is going to host the event, which is not even going to be considered until 2020, so 2020. So there's not really, there's still a lot of planning and different kinks that they have to iron out for the 2026 tournament. So it's going to be a lot of fun. They're considering the United States as well as Canada and Mexico. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be some changes, but like I said, we have to wait a little while before we see these changes take into effect. But I just thought it was really cool because a lot of these tournaments and that's the thing with international play and with international sports that I love, is just that very rarely do sports, the setup and the way that we have sports here in the United States, like when we talk about college football, the setup and the structure, the tournament scheduling and things like that, relatively the same. Every once in a while, we'll change or add different rules to, the NBA, NFL, but for the most part, we know what's going to happen as far as structure is concerned for our preseason, in-season, and postseason games. But then with international sports such as football, which, soccer, which as far as soccer is concerned, I love that the world comes together to decide this because there's so many countries. It's kind of like the Olympics, everybody kind of has a say and everybody wants to host. Everybody wants to be a part of. And it's really cool to me when they decide to change up tournament rules to include more nations, to include more teams, so that more people can play. And as we all know, even though living in the United States, we don't give it as much credit as it truly deserves, but soccer is loved around the world, and clearly it is. They're able to add 16 more teams to a tournament schedule. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to take place, like I said, in 2026. They're going to be adding in those extra teams. There's going to be a lot more money coming in for soccer. So that's actually going to do it for this episode of the Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. You can listen to this episode as well as any future and previous episodes on our network website. That's gsmcpodcast.com, as well as on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.